I'm back. All right. You guys have some questions for me. I believe in you. Anybody? Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, any questions?
Hey,
Hey.
the fawns, just
What's
like
the
hit
first
the
one?
jukebox. Hey.
All right, there you go. We got a question. What's up? First, what's your question?
Um, about the leveling system.
hmm
Um, is this something that you can implement in your pipeline about designing? Or let's suppose you have to design something like Legend of the Cryptids, where you have version 1 and 2 advanced. Should you do the leveling system for the first character and the second character to
Yeah,
push your
whatever.
design up?
Yeah, whatever you feel makes sense. Yeah. Uh, I think for me, the leveling up system that I taught you guys is more of a tool to push you when you start with a very low kind of design sense. It's not
Okay.
necessarily something. It's something to teach you to start at 100 already. Like already start at 3. Less about like something you use on a professional level all the time. It's just to help you kind of know. Like if you feel like your design is bland, it probably is, and that's a good way to get it past that. Does it make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So you could totally use it for work. You know, that's not a problem. But like at the point I'm trying to make is like you should be at a point where your level ones are like level threes. Is what I'm trying to get at.
Okay.
Hope that helps. Good question. Any other questions?
About working is as impossible as it seems. It's like how we can do that.
I have a hard time hearing what you just said. Can you try to say it again?
Yeah, but about if work is as difficult to get a job on the industry as it seems.
It's hard to get a job. What?
Uh, if it is as hard as it seems,
Oh, is it hard to get a job as it seems?
yeah,
Oh, okay. So I guess the question is like, how difficult is it to get a job or make a living doing it, right?
yeah.
A good way to answer this question is just go to ArtStation, right? This is what I do for some of you guys. Okay. And let us pretend to be an art director. Okay. And as an art director, we are looking for um, vehicle designs. Got it? We're looking for vehicle designers, realistic vehicle designers. So looking at all these images right here, there's already a lot of them that you can eliminate, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'd be like, oh, this one's pretty cool. This robot design, I'll hold on to it later, right? And then right away, what I'm going to do is go to this person's site and see if they can do it. Oh yeah, absolutely. And by the way, this is Sam Brown, who's clearly one of the best in the industry, right? And as a designer, I'm like, okay, or as the person who's recruiting people, I can look at this objectively, whether I want to bring him on or not. You understand? And
Yeah, yeah.
and if you go back, you can do the same thing and be like, well, I'm looking for stylized character design, you know? So that image that we were just looking at with Sam Brown, um, if it was still here, I would say no to it now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, look at
Yeah,
this really cool Master Chief helmet, right? But
uh-huh.
the images that I'm drawn towards for that specific job is probably like this Ross Tran stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but
And
then
and then
yeah,
and if you just go to like latest and have the same kinds of problems, ask the same kinds of questions, we're looking for stylized character artist. Let me know if you see anything here that you would want to click on if you were actually hiring them. You know, it's going to be harder, right? Why is it
yeah.
harder?
For
Because sure enough, this is stylized, right?
yeah.
Like, but
That's
why
something.
won't we want to hire that person? You know, this is arguably stylized. It's not bad either. I
But
think,
then they contact you, or so you can really search job. I mean,
yeah, they'll if you're really really good at in most cases sometimes the studios will reach out to you, yeah. But if you're not
yeah.
really really good and you're not putting your artwork out there, it's like nearly impossible to get a job, right?
Yeah.
But if you're putting your artwork out there and there's places where people can really find it, and there's lots of ways that can go down, whether that's like even going to events and talking to people and pushing your artwork onto people on a personal level, you know,
Uh-huh.
you increase your odds of getting a job. But it's it's as simple as what I just pointed out, which is that like like think of a company that you want to work for, and then look at your work and ask yourself if you were a hiring manager or art director, would you even hire yourself?
Yeah, you're more critique with you usually.
Huh?
You critique yourself harder than other artwork,
Yeah.
so it's difficult to state really.
No, but okay, so you're telling me that you can't like if you wanted to work for Blizzard, you would be like, I don't know if I could work for Blizzard if your work was just as good as if not better. I
Yeah,
doubt that, right?
yeah,
Like I get what you're saying. I get that it's like, you know, you're a lot more critical, you know? But
hmm,
there's at one point you're not going to be delusional, right?
yeah,
Like I don't agree with that statement that you'll never know if you're good enough. Like that's a lot. You're lying to yourself if you're really believing that. You know what I mean?
yeah.
For instance, I look at my artwork and let's take one of my better ones that I did. Let's take this one, or even like this one I just did recently. Right? I like this one a lot. I
Mhm.
I am not going to expect Pixar Animation to give me a call. You understand?
Yeah,
I'm very proud of this artwork. I think I did a pretty good job. But I am nowhere near capable of working for Pixar, right?
yeah,
But if you say maybe Diablo, yeah, I think I could work at Diablo. Do you think I could work at Diablo?
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, right? It's like, do I think I could be better though? Like getting to your argument, like, you know, the self-criticism? Of course, man. Of course I can be better, right?
Yeah,
So like I'm trying to say is like you can look at your artwork objectively is what I'm getting at. You know whether you're able to work or not with the work you have now. And specifically you know you can work or not for specific companies. That's even easier to do. Right?
hmm,
Like what's a good company that you love? Like a company that you really love and would love to work for?
mm, me, it was the guys who made Dark Souls. That one.
Uh, the Dark Souls franchise? Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
a big fan of them too. Do you think you can work on their games with the artwork that you have now?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, so then you just got to reach to that quality. You got to be at least the minimum of what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
The minimum. So that way you at least have a shot. And then once you're at the minimum, then you got to ask yourself how you can be different. That's a whole different conversation, right?
Hmm.
You get it?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
it's if getting work is if you were confused whether it was hard to get a job, yes, it's hard to get a job, right? And now the next question is, are you going to give up now?
No, I won't.
No, right? Because that's a silly question. Of course it's going to be hard.
It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, it's just a matter of time, exactly. But how do you stay objective and how do you stay on task is kind of the stuff I just told you, right? By looking at your work objectively and asking yourself those serious questions. Are you capable of working there or not? You know?
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And then eventually, like 3 or 4 years from now, you might not even want to work for them because you're at a whole nother level. Or maybe you do still want to work for them. You know, or maybe you don't work for them at all. You work for another company that's very similar, just as good. You know? But that's a great way to gauge like your quality of work and how you can improve when you're moving forward, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, for me, it was really it came home, it came hit me really hard when I was trying to get a job at Insomniac, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
the guys who made Ratchet and Clank and stuff like that, and they made The Resistance, right? I wanted to work on that. They liked my portfolio a lot, but they're like, "Look, we already gave the job to a guy." And I was like, "Oh, who did you give it to?" And they're like, "Carlo Orlano." And Carlo Orlano was my mentor, right?
Well,
And it made me realize that he's my competition too. And I realized that if I want to be a professional, I have to ball with the professionals. Does that make sense?
yeah.
Like I'm your teacher, I'm your mentor, but I'm also your competition. You
Good to
know?
know.
Oh, there you go. That's the attitude. That's the right attitude. Yeah, and eventually we won't be a competition. We'll be friends. And plus, I'm not really because I don't really work too much deliberately. I took this latest job because I actually like the project a lot, and I think it could be really big and epic.
Can you type down the name of the artist that just Carlo Orledo?
Oh, sorry.
I'm curious to see who was your mentor.
He was one of them. Yeah, one of many.
I don't know. Thanks.
Hmm. My dog. Great question. Any other questions?
Yeah. So what do you feel like were like big personal challenges for you over the years, and like how did you kind of overcome them and stay focused on your art stuff?
I think art is never a problem. I gotta be 100% honest. I was never like, oh man, I don't think I'll ever make it. I was pretty confident I was going to. Um, for the simple fact that I just knew that it just was a matter of time, right? And what really were the struggles or kind of the stuff that I'm dealing with all the time, which is life stuff, you know? I feel like life is much harder than art, becoming good at art.
I Yeah, I do know.
Yeah, so I don't really worry about the art. I took an Uber today, and I was talking to the Uber driver, and every time I do that, they always like, "Oh my gosh, you're an artist?" Like, "Oh, I can never do that." Then I always correct them, and I said, "Oh, you can do it." And they're like, "What? What do you mean?" And it's like, "Yeah, talent's not a real thing, dude. Don't worry about it. Like, you can do it." It's like the question you should ask yourself is not so much if you can do it, it's whether you want to do it, right? That's a better question.
Yeah, I think it's like a not if but when kind of thing.
Yeah, so the real questions are, do you want to do it? And that's really the it. Just do you want to do it? Because if you tell me like I want to be a concept artist, but it's so hard, I have no sympathy for you. Like, well, hard is comes with everything. Name one job that's easy, and then I could tell you why you probably don't want to do it at the same time. Like, it's easy to flip burgers, so then go flip burgers. Then, if you want easy, go do that. You know, and then you'll be like, well, I don't want to flip burgers. So you don't want to do stuff that are easy, but you're complaining about things that are hard. It's like you can make money right now. Like if you're worried about money, you can make money. You can be a banker or something. Like go do it. you know.
Hmm.
So the better question is like how if you want to do it, right? And so that, I'm assuming that the answer is yes for you, right? So then the next so then the next concern, um, the the real concern is to why do you think that you can't do it? Like get that shit out of your head. You know, why are you having second thoughts when you know better, right? And that's some usually deep personal stuff that you have to usually fight. And that's the internal demons. I don't have many of those. I don't get very flabbergasted very easily.
So it seems to me like you draw a lot on your teaching experience from like your personal experience, and I think a lot of that is like internal reactions, like how you like kind of choose to handle those life circumstances, and um, so for me it's about like okay like I'm 100% invested. It's like what's kind of that like you were talking about the other day, like what's that more direct route, and you gave the example with studying with the distance to the moon.
Yep,
Um,
totally. Yeah, so for me, when I hear kind of these types of conundrums that or riddles that students have with themselves, I always try to bring you back to reality. There's a video I was watching this morning a little bit about, which is really cool. There's a YouTube channel you guys should watch. It's called School of Life. They have a lot of really great philosophy.
I was actually watching it earlier today.
Yeah, there's one they were talking about the lens that goes over the perception of what people imagine the world is like versus reality.
Hmm.
And basically what I'm trying to say is like reality is much more clear. I hear someone wants to know the video. I don't know what's going on.
That I was pulling up the. I was trying to see which particular video it was, but started
Oh,
talking, so cut it off.
um, yeah, and it's the latest one I think. And so anyway, yeah, it just talks about how there's this perception that you have internally in your mind and it versus reality. And that's a pretty big problem sometimes for a lot of people. It causes anxiety and all these different types of issues, right? And for me, it's kind of like I don't have those problems because I know I have a good sense of what reality is about. Wait, hold on just a second. All right. Anyway, so like, so I have a good sense of that, right? Because I've met a lot of people in my life, and I've heard a lot of different kind of opinions and points of views throughout my life, and I've started to realize that people uh, don't really know what they're talking about most of the time, right? And that's helped me. And what I mean by people don't really know what they're talking about, it's not that I don't think people. I'm high and mighty. I know everything that I know in the world, and everyone else is wrong, and I'm smarter than them. It's that I've realized how wrong I've been so many times that I don't even know. And if I don't even know, what makes me think that this person even thinks they know? You know? And I always go. I teach you guys this, right? Like go on the caution that you are more likely ignorant than you are knowledgeable of things, right? I love it when students are like, "Oh, I do anatomy studies," and I'm like, "No, you don't. I can see it in your work. Like literally, I can tell that you don't do enough anatomy studies." No, but I do. I'm like, "No, you don't. Like listen to me. You don't. Like I could see that you don't know how the supinator connects to the to the biceps. You know, like I know you don't understand those very subtle anatomy cues. You know, and it's because you haven't done enough anatomy studies. Like, don't argue with me on this. Like, just trust me on this." And whenever they do, then they do it, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't know my anatomy. I thought I studied before." I was like, "You did it. That's what I was trying to teach you." And that's why, like, even like whenever we were in a Discord chat the other day, and someone was like saying something about an article about like iPhones exploding just as much as the Samsung phones, right? And I was like, "Are they?" You know? He's like, "Yeah, I heard about it." He's like, "Where did you hear about it?" He's like, "On a website." He's like, "What's the website?" He's like, "Are you sure?" And he's like, "Oh, you know what? Let me look it up." And he looked it up and he found the article. And I was like, "Okay, this looks right." This looks like a tangible website. And I say, I guess you're right. But it looks like they don't blow up just as many. They just happen to blow up. Some of them just happen to blow up, but not a lot. So I guess you're wrong and right, right? And there was kind of a lesson to that person was like, you know, are you sure? You know? And for me, since I've experienced a lot and I've been through a lot, and I've taught a series like hundreds of students, man. You know, if not thousands, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen a pattern. I've seen what the number one thing that I constantly see happening is just people get distracted. Okay, because when I bring up the point of, are you going to quit now when it's hard, right? With the earlier question, right? He's like, no, of course not, right? Then why are you getting distracted with it might be hard? Like you already know it's hard, and even if it was, even if you didn't know and then you just found out, like why is that going to stop you? Like why even ask that question? You understand? Like what is the point of asking that question in the first place? And that's why I always try to reveal the truth of that. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like obvious stuff. Like do I have to be good? Like how good do I have to be? You got to be really fucking good. Are you gonna quit now because you're not really fucking good? Oh no, of course not. All right. Next, what's the real problem? Is that you're getting distracted. There's a moment that happens in all of you guys, and even myself with other things, where you're doing something right, and it just sucks, and you're just like, man, I don't like how I feel right now. And then all these questions start coming into your head about like weird stuff, right? And then all you need is justification. It seems like, What I'm trying to say is teach yourself to just immediately slap yourself in the face and be like, well, of course it's going to be a struggle. This is the moment that another person's going to hit, and they're going to think that it is too hard, but you're going to keep going, right? And there's going to be another wall, right? And again, maybe that's what that person does, but you're the person that goes past both those walls, right? And there's going to be another wall, and another, and another, and another, right? There's going to be endless walls. Just count on that too, right? Okay? But those are life, right? That's life. Throwing bullshit in your way every day, every time. And every time you go through a wall, you should think this instead of that. That is, man, is it really worth it? The other question, the real question you should ask yourself is, I wonder how the other guy feels because I'm going past this, right? Or the other gal. Like, I feel bad for the other person that they thought that this was a big problem in their life, or like a big deal that they should have gave up because it really wasn't because I just got past it really easily. And when I mean easily, I just kept pushing through until I got through it, right? And say, like, I remember when I was learning Unreal, and there was like I was learning some stuff, and it was just like over my head. I had no clue, like half of the stuff that was thrown in my face. I was like literally at zero, right? And I was like, there's so much. But once I learned this, I'm going to be that much better than the other guy who got to the same point and decided to stop because it was so much. Because it was important to me to learn this stuff in Unreal.
It's like blueprints.
Yeah, right?
Word.
Do you hear what I'm saying? Does this make
Oh,
sense?
I
So,
totally hear what you're saying.
so here's a good. So that's like some philosophical advice, right? So here's some practical advice, right, to help you kind of to get past this. Okay. One of them is don't think of don'ts. Think about do's, right? Or think about cans instead of can'ts, right? Like, don't think of why you can't do stuff. Think about why you can do it. So a good example is like, oh man, my anatomy is really bad. I just can't understand it, right? It's a
Mm-hmm.
very silly question, as you probably can think about, right? Because it's not that you can't understand it. You just are not at the level of, you're just not skilled, okay? The reason why you can't understand it is because you're very amateur at it, right? You don't know enough about it, right? So that's the obvious thing. That's kind of the philosophical point I just made earlier, right? So the way you rephrase this question or this statement now is, man, anatomy is really hard. I wonder how I can improve upon this. Or I wonder if I can do this, or I wonder if I do this, or if I try this, or if I experiment with that, if I'll get a little bit closer. Instead of I don't know, or I can't, or it's too hard, or I don't understand, or whatever stop signs you put in front of you, stop putting those stop signs in front of you is what I'm trying to say. This is practical advice. Okay? What you're really doing is looking for yield signs, like signs that are like you're a little bit more cautious, but you're still moving, right? Does it make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because like, questions like, is it difficult or is it like, how do you get past the times where things are rough? I just get past them, you know? There's so many ways I've done it. There's so many things that I've tried, and none of them are going to be the right answer for you at this moment because I might get it wrong. That's why I explain this concept seriously. Like you'll find that at the whole class, I explain this same concept, this simple concept of just keep going, guys, keep moving to you guys in so many different ways that at the end you are certain of it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And if you still aren't, I'll just keep explaining it until you're certain of it. You know? Because like with everything, it takes time. Everything takes time to get good at. Even becoming patient with yourself, or having more confidence, or being more motivated, or more patient, or more resilient. Nothing comes for free. Even stuff like that, right? So you might still be distracted, is what I'm saying, and I'm not going to be mad at you for it because I already know it's expected. I'm already expecting it. I promise. There's going to be another way you guys are going to phrase your insecurities and your doubts, and I'm just going to be like,
Hmm.
bring you back to reality. I promise you, you know? And that's fine. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm a teacher.
Hmm.
I'm not one of those teachers that, oh, you just work hard. That's not real advice. You know? Like that's like the only like I had teachers that were just like, you're just not capable of doing it, or they'll just pretty much shut me down, you know? And it works for some people. It worked for me, for instance, because I like that kind of stuff makes it seem like a challenge. But
Hmm.
I like to say, yes, work hard, but this is why and how you should do it. Because the working hard is obvious, or working for it is obvious. It's just now,
When did
what does that mean to you specifically? Because everyone's different. Some people have different problems specifically, right?
when did you feel like you wanted to be a teacher? Like,
Oh, I didn't
when was
know.
that a thing?
See, then I didn't really know until probably like 2 or 3 years ago. That's when I decided to just be one, right? Because I was just doing it, and I get the most satisfaction from it, you know. And who knows? I might not be a teacher 10 years from now. Maybe something else. I live my life like Forrest Gump. Life is like a box of chocolate. You never know what you're gonna get, right? That movie was my favorite movie. He was right. You know what's great about the movie is that like the main character never really changed. Like Forrest never really changed. You know, in most movies, the character or the protagonist has some sort of arc. He didn't have one.
Actually, just missed everything you said because my tablet timed out. So
That's
I
fine.
can go back and watch it though. That's
No,
chill.
no, I'll say it again. I said Forrest Gump. In the movie Forrest Gump, everybody changes except for Forrest. That's why I loved it. Because Forrest lived by one philosophy, which is life is like a box of chocolates, you know, which was told by him by his mother. And if you look at him, like his whole life was just like a hodgepodge of just series of random events, you know. And he was just
Hmm.
like, yeah, that's just how life is. That's what my mom told me about. And it's like I already knew that, you know. But it was like everybody else that, like, for instance, like Lieutenant Dan, like had destiny to become dead and a martyr of his lineage, right? But he ended up surviving, and that he cursed the world. Jenny wanted to change the world in a meaningful way, but she never was able to. She kept on becoming addicted to drugs and associated with the wrong kinds of people, right? Bubba had this whole plan of starting a shrimp company, but he never did because he died, right? And Forrest Gump just lived his life. He just like, this is life. This is how it is. Life is like a box of chocolates. Nobody else realized that, you know? You never know what you're going to get, and you should just accept that. And I kind of live that way. And like right now, I really am a big fan of being a teacher and helping people out, and, motivating and inspiring the next generation of badass concept artists. It's a big deal to me. And I think that will last me for quite a while, probably my whole life. I might just be a teacher all my whole life, right? But
Yeah, that's
what
awesome.
what I'm teaching might change. I might teach something completely different because I get better at something else potentially. So yeah, for me, I don't like. I mean, think about it with your own life. Like, how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 29.
So imagine going, think about like this 12-year-old version of yourself. Like, what was that person thinking about? You think they would think that they're going to be in the position they are today, like you are today? Not really, right?
Not really, no.
And then think about when you're like 20, like your early 20s. Think about the conversation you would have with yourself when you were 20 years old. All right, it would be very similar. It would just be like weird disconnect, right? So you do what now? you know, right?
For sure.
So it's
For
like
sure.
it really is kind of silly to think too far ahead, but it isn't too silly to be like, okay, I want to be a something, and then really try to go for it. You know, that's not
Hmm.
silly, but it's silly to be like, well, I don't like I'm gonna get a job, and then once I get a job, I'm gonna do this, and then once I do this, I'm gonna do that. You know,
Hmm.
that's there's a really great phrase about that, right? Like, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. I love that.
Do you know who that quote's by?
I have no idea, but I love it. I love everything about it.
That's interesting.
There might be some sort of website you can just do quote master or something, right? Like you just put it in, and it'll just give you some sort of, or at least a starting point for origins of that, maybe.
Yeah, philosophy is like my jam. Besides art, it's like so good.
Well, about philosophy, it helps people um, get past of uh, their mentality, like secondary. It's like a secondary thing tool that I use to teach, right? It helps people get past their perspective, like the way they think about stuff.
Hmm.
Because right now, a lot of you guys are conditioned to work, 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 then die. You know, and I'm like trying to condition you guys to say, no, it's definitely work, but slow your roll. It's not complicated, you know.
Hmm.
But yeah, trust me, I've tried all kinds of things. But you gotta remember, like I was once a student too, right? There was a time where I had no idea, and I had asked very similar questions. So I get where you guys are coming from. It's not I'm not naive to that,
Well,
right?
prospectively, you still are.
Yeah, but what I mean is like I was a student that didn't know how to get a job. I was a student that didn't know what to put in his portfolio or how good I needed to be. And because I
Mhm.
know that, I know that it was mainly based off of insecurity, right? The fear of like, what if I'm like not going to do well? But like I said earlier, I didn't really, I knew better than that, right? I knew that if I just stuck with it, I'll be fine, right? It wasn't a matter of if, it was like what you said, it's a matter of when.
Yeah, for sure.
And then now I had the hindsight to tell you guys, oh yeah, it's really the only things you can worry about is like networking and talking and hanging out with people and making those connections, and then more importantly having great artwork. It's just going to be easier and easier for you, and the next thing you know, you're going to be badass. I've seen so many people start from 0 to 100. It's really cool to see, and a lot of my students have done that.
Word. Well, I don't want to take up the whole session, for sure, but it's definitely definitely want to see where the flow of conversation went.
Yeah,
So, yeah, thanks. Thanks for the perspective. It's good to hear.
yeah, good
Good to hear.
question. Yeah,
But yeah.
don't worry, you're fine. Just focus on giving yourself strategies to keep improving. You know, and and specifically the number one thing you need to do that is just keep working. You got to keep finding time for improvement. It's really what it comes down to.
Hmm.
Any other questions?
I got one.
Yeah, go for it, brother.
How do you approach starting an IP game or story? What are like the possible steps?
The easiest one, the most um, the easiest process is just to start something. Okay? That's probably the easiest way to get started, and that's all I would say to worry about right now.
Okay.
Okay? So for example, what would you do to start your IP? What would be a good thing? And I'll tell you whether you're doing too much or too little. Like, what do you think you would need to do?
Oh. Uh, come up with an idea and roll with it, play around, look at what other similar things there are, see what works and what doesn't, maybe.
Yeah, sure. What's the problem with that, you think?
Uh, I can't answer that.
Yeah, that's fine.
I don't know.
I just wanted to see if you could. There's a saying called analysis paralysis. Have you heard of this? I mean, it kind of is self-explanatory if you just listen to the words, which is thinking too much and not doing anything. You understand?
Yep.
So what did I say, right? I said just do something, okay?
Mhm.
And now let me kind of backtrack. What I mean by that is like actually just start creating something, okay? So think about it again. Like, so what would you think to do to get started? Like, what would be like in a physical and more specific example? Give me one. Try again. Go.
Draw, do stuff.
Yeah, but like what? What would you draw?
Uh, characters.
Yeah, bam. That's a good
Scenes,
start. Draw characters, right? You said came up with the idea before, right? I would say instead of coming up with the idea, write down like a story or a thought of an idea. See the difference? It's just like don't just start with things that are floaty, right? Start with things that you can look at and criticize, you know,
yeah. Okay.
right? Because once you start doing that, then you can start to say, then you can start doing more research, but the research is going to be more objective, right? One of the people in the Discord, one of my students, Brainchild, Mike, right? He's been sitting on this whole stream stuff for quite a bit, and he's been doing a good job of looking into like all the different things and whatever that he can do, right? But I kind of said, why don't we do a stream on Monday? And he was like, oh, what? I was like, let's stream on Monday. And he's like, okay, let's do it. You know, like who knows how much longer it would have taken him to get started on the stream. He even admitted, like, he's like, I still wasn't sure when I was kept on doing research and just looking in, you know what I mean? But I was like, let's do it Monday. And he's like, Monday? I was like, yeah, let's do it. He's like, oh, because it could fall apart. Maybe everything won't work. But I explained to him, we just got to get started. That's it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's going to be garbage at first, but eventually, or maybe it's not going to be garbage. Maybe we'll look out, right? But like I told you guys, I caution on the side of I don't know. And so it's going to probably be not good because of the fact that this is the first time we've done it, even with all that research that he did, right?
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? Like it's great and all to just talk about it, but it's one thing to start doing it, you know, and seeing the product of your failure. That's something that I really encourage people whenever they want to make their own thing to start to do is to start doing stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, because a lot of times nobody does anything. Is what I'm trying to get at. And they're always like, I just never can. I don't know how to get started. And it's because that's the problem. Like you think you have to have something to get started with. You know? Do you think? Do you think a company like let's take a big company like Apple, right? Do you think Steve Jobs knew that they were going to make iPads and iPods when he was in that garage with Wozniak making the first personal computer?
Of course not.
So how did that come to be then? How is that possible? Well, because over time, he got smarter. He lost his business. He started thinking about what people wanted, and he found a different thing and used the power of Apple once he got back in, right,
Hmm.
to make the iPod, which basically saved the company, right? And it took him to lose everything, like make everything, and then lose everything, and experience life, and basically understand that even with all that power, he was able to lose it, right? To potentially create products that he did after he came back, right? And then he became just like a boss at making cool stuff. He brought Pixar into to light. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You think John Lasseter thinking that when he got fired from Disney that Pixar was going to be Pixar? No, right? It's probably just a kid looking for a job. You know?
Mhm.
And so all the things that these people have in common is they started something and they just kept making stuff and they start going and going and going and then over a collective amount of time things happen, right?
All right.
So like you can make anything you want, man. Just start doing it today. Just make it one thing at a time. Case in point, these like illustrations I've been doing with my buddy, and he's writing the stories. Yeah, Dan did that too, right? A lot of people have done this. Um, I've been doing these color illustrations, right? It was more of an exercise to get me better at colors, right? Specifically starting in color, right? And my buddy, he's really into writing, and we've always wanted to kind of do something together. And I thought, hey, what's a good exercise to do? Maybe we work together in this way where I'll paint this painting, you look at it, right? And then you write a story, you know? And now we've done nearly 27 of these, right? Let me see how many we've got. 28, I lied. And these are all written and illustrated. And there's another one. You guys are seeing the next one. you know? And it's just like I just draw an image, he writes a story. I draw an image, he writes a story, right? And I just post it on Facebook, and people are starting to get excited about it, you know? And by the time we might have 50 or 60 of these, we have like a whole full book of these, we'll make a book and put it out there. But it all started with just hey, I'm just going to draw something, and why don't you work with me on it, you know?
Mhm.
I hear my kids fighting in another room. Anyway, I'm trying to figure out what's going on. I'm trying to listen in. Any other questions? So far, good questions, guys. You guys have been killing it. Any other questions? Hey, Julian, that's not how you talk. I hate when he whines. He's really bad about it. My son, my daughter's really good now because she used to be the same way. But I like tell them like if you talk, you know that I can understand you better because they're just so like you gotta use your words, homie. There's no way we're gonna understand you. First of all, you already speak baby, so that's one step that we had to get past.
I
Anyway,
got a really specific one.
yeah, go for it.
I was at View conference, which was a VFX festival yesterday, and I had to watch two talks. One by MPC about the making of Jungle Book,
Oh, cool.
and the other one was a sort of presentation by Sony ImageWorks.
Sweet.
And I noticed that they had really a different approach because I also know a bunch of guys which had work at my MPC, and they have this kind of approach that you do stuff for them basically as a modeler, as a texture artist, as a whatever, and then you can move through the company and let's say that they look more for a generalist kind of employee,
Uh-huh.
which in Sony ImageWorks I found it's completely different. They
Uh-huh.
look really for much more specialized assets. Like
Right.
they want to be hiring just modelers of a certain rank.
Sure.
And I wanted to ask you, based on your experience working in the field of concept art, how much do you feel you have to be specialized? I mean, uh, how being a generalist helps? I mean, I know it helps, but how much time should you spend focusing or on a specific asset of your career?
Oh, well,
Like for example,
let me ask you a question to answer this question for you. Um, what do you want to do? Like,
um,
regardless of what you just told me, like, what would you? Well, it's golden ticket question. Like, what would you want to do?
yeah. Um, I would like to be a pure concept artist
Okay,
2D.
so just do be a pure concept artist. Just ignore all that other shit. You heard it. You can either be a generalist or specialist. There's companies that hire only specialists, and there's companies that hire only generalists. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's a distraction, right? It's another distraction, right? Because think about what I do. Like,
Yes, but
what am I, like, do you consider me a generalist?
no, no, not that. I mean, I know that you know some 3D, but you clearly your
Character
3D is
designer,
only
yeah.
a plus.
2D character designer. And I only learned 3D to be better at character designing, right? You understand? Because even
Mhm.
the 3D I do is like
Yeah,
character
yeah.
based, right? Like this, right?
So,
Even that's 3D, but it's
uh,
still like clearly kind of like tumor monsters and hard surface, right? It's stuff that it's no shock to you. That how did I make it in the industry,
but
man? How did I do it? Well,
an, a collateral question. Do you think being part of a team of of not of your specific role could make you improve as fast as focusing just on that role without a team?
wait, say it one more time.
Do you think that being part of a team of
Uh,
artists, but in which you fulfill the role, not the specific role
specialist.
of concept artist, could make you improve at the same speed of focusing just on concept
Hell
art
no.
without a team?
Hell no.
No.
That's an obvious question. So like think about it like this. Working with a team, like here, are you going to learn something with it, working with a team? Of course you are, right?
Mhm.
Like let's imagine these are the two scenarios, and here's 100 or 1,000 points. Let's say you're going to have 1,000 points of knowledge no matter what you do. So you're going to learn regardless, right?
Okay.
But then let's say 250 points are is in 3D modeling for matte paintings. 250 is cleaning up matte paintings, and 250 is for texture painting, and 250 is maybe some concept art. So this is what you want to do, right?
Okay.
This is pure
Yeah.
concept art. Like,
Yes. Okay.
of of course, doing the specialized thing is going to make you better at it right away. Of course it is. Like
Uh,
in terms of same
yes.
time, it's different. Like, but the difference is that with this one, you know a little bit of 3D, you know a little bit of matte painting, you know a little bit of texture painting. This person might not know any of those other three, but they're going to be way better than you in concept art. No question.
Okay, but doesn't I mean, maybe the team is helping you, giving you more ideas, or making to a little bit more of quality time.
how can you become a better concept artist, or how could you be so much better of a concept artist than the person who focused only on concept artists? Like I don't like it's really simple math, right? I'm not saying that this person right here has lower value. I'm saying they have equal value, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying this both 1,000, you know? But you asked me specifically, is it faster if you focus only on concept art versus not focusing on it? There's no doubt. There's no question. If you focus all your efforts to becoming a great concept artist, you are going to become a great concept artist faster than if you're at a studio. Because you're going to have, imagine if we didn't do points, we did days or hours. Let's say this was like 10, let's make it a really small scale, 10 hours, right? If 5 of your hours was just modeling trash cans for a matte painting versus 5 hours practicing your anatomy for a character, do you not see it yet? Like, do you see how clear it is?
Yeah.
And there's nothing that that team can do and say that's going to make you any better at 2D painting and anatomy if you're making trash cans. There's no way. There's no way. Like, here's what can happen is that you get really good with 3D and you combine that with 2D, or maybe you get really good with all these things and you find a real ingenious way to put it all together, right? That can happen. But look
Mm-hmm.
what happens. It's still something very clear still happens. Like, what does Vitaly Bogorov do?
I know this guy.
So let me ask
Of
you,
course.
do you think he's a generalist?
No, I don't think so.
And do you think anyone else is as good as him? Can you think of
Mm,
anybody? Do you see the point?
uh,
There's like
yes.
probably nobody, and anybody that is his good friend that hangs out with him, like Fausto is pretty close.
Yeah.
But if we really had to ask, if I had a choice to hire either Vitali or Fausto, I would hire Vitali. And the only reason why I'll probably hire Fausto is because he's probably cheaper. Do you see my point? Vitali, if you want to know what laser focus looks like, this is what it looks like. Vitali only makes high quality mech designs. Realistic mech designs. No question about it, right? There's no delusion, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
then if you just go to our station, I mean, you could even compare my artwork. Let's just look at my artwork compared to his, like my mechs compared to his mechs, right? Or even my 3D mechs. Let's do that. Look at this. Oh yeah, this is pretty cool, but not comparatively. You know what I mean? Because that's like me not, that's not my main focus, right? Now, if you ask Vitaly to try to paint any of the things I've painted, right?
Mm-hmm.
Clearly he
Yeah.
won't be able to because I have laser focus on my painting, right? I'm super fast, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm getting the point.
Right? You starting to understand now? In fact, Vitaly uses a lot of
Mm-hmm.
my images for reference when he first started, like stuff like this, for inspiration, because he liked my design sensibility. He told me a long, long time ago. But that's it. Everything else is him, right? He took it to the next level, and it's like a weird kind of human centipede things happening. Now I'm like looking at his stuff for reference. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what
He's
laser
also
focus
monster.
looks like. Yeah, he's a monster, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
let's just find some evidence. Look at this guy. This is pretty good, right? So let's see if there's any variety and any generalist, quote unquote, in his work. I don't see any trash cans in here or fantasy art. So I have no delusion why this mech drawing is so good, right? You understand? Now let's just
Yeah.
go to like latest and let's just find some sort of artwork that looks pretty good. Okay, let's look at this one. Not to talk shit to any artist, but like let's look at this, right? For one, there's not a lot, right? And there's like a contemporary piece of artwork there. Like you'll see this as a common symptom to people that are just starting out. They'll have a lot of everything because they're afraid that they're not going to get a job. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's exactly like my portfolio.
Well, there it is. There you have it. Right? Like it's not. I'm not talking. I'm not trying to talk badly about those artists because those artists will one day hopefully improve. You know, if they keep at it. It's not a problem, right? And maybe they'll take my class one day, and I'll tell them what I'm telling you, right? To tell them to focus. You know.
Yeah, yeah,
But once you start to really get down to it, like think of some of your favorite artists, you'll start to realize they really only kind of do one thing, you know? And the ones that can do multiple things really well, again, you can start to understand it really is only one thing. Like it might be illustration, but they do vehicles, characters, all this stuff. But there's a person that you can think of that could do better characters or vehicles or environments than that one person. But they're pretty good at all the other stuff, right? But you can always think of that one person that only does that one thing that is clearly better than them. You hear what I'm saying? Like Jamie Jones is a great example. You guys know Jamie Jones? Do you
of
know
course.
Jamie Jones' work?
He's so good.
Yeah. But what do you know him for? Is it his character designs?
I know him for his Magic the Gathering art. So like
Illustration.
his yeah, his illustrations
Exactly.
on point.
Exactly. He's one of the better illustrators out there. He has pretty decent character design skills. He's got pretty decent environment skills, but when it comes down to it, he's a great painter. Right?
Fantastic. And Alexei Briscolt, or however you pronounce his name.
Yeah. See, now you can start seeing the matrix a little bit, can't you? So when you're asking me, is it possible to get good at a different company being a generalist? Absolutely, of course you can, right? But if you're saying asking me, is it like what's better? Like, uh, would you get better being focused 100% on one thing or dividing your time into multiple things? Like the answer is in the question. You know what I mean? How can
Yeah,
you be good at multiple things, or how can you perfect one thing if you're distracted with all these other things? You know, like I said, it's not that less value. You're gonna have those other skills. It's gonna be, and maybe that's gonna make you once you've decided. You know, I'm going to like Vitaly did. Vitaly was a 3D modeler, focused on that, laser focus, right? But then he's like, I'm gonna be a mech designer, and he just happens to use his 3D as a tool to do it. You understand? Because
yeah,
he got really good at it when he was working for people, and once he was able to laser focus that, he got dramatically better. Does it help you?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, don't
A
get
lot.
distracted with don't get distracted with like what companies say as law. Like just consider that that's what that one company wants, right? You're right. Some companies want generalists, some companies want um, diverse portfolios, whatever, but other companies just want someone that can just make a really cool concept or model, right? And you might just have to only work for the companies that just want a model, or you just want that one specialist, right? Because that's what you want to be. You want to be a specialist. You want to be a concept artist, right?
Yeah,
And it works on this advice also works on the subset of that. Like, should I do environments or should I do characters or should I do like again, just you could do it all. And there's plenty of time to do them all, But I highly recommend focusing on one or two, you know, and become masters of those, and then you can kind of try the other ones because they are kind of all one and the same, right? But it helps to kind of be master at one at first. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
This
yeah,
helps.
yeah. See, I promised you guys that I would talk someone off distractions, right? I told you, I promised that there's always some question or some sort of distraction that gets you. You know the reality of it, but you're for whatever reason distracted by it, right? And you're really good too. You absolutely can be a concept artist, at least from your thumbnails. I can tell you can do it, man. So
Thanks.
it's just a matter of time. Just don't get distracted. You're gonna hear people tell you to diversify your portfolio. You're gonna hear people like you need more of one thing. It's just gonna happen. Listen to all those advice, but at the same time, like know what you want to do, you know,
Okay.
because
Yeah.
no one else is gonna work for you, right? Nobody's gonna walk in your shoes. Basically,
Of
don't let
course.
people project to you what you should be doing. Yeah. There's plenty of people that are specialists. Now, is it harder to be a specialist? Uh, yeah, I think so. Because the entry of level to be a generalist isn't as hard. You understand?
Yeah.
You just gotta
Yeah.
be mediocre sometimes at everything. You don't have to necessarily be an expert at it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's basically the beginning of a generalist career.
Yeah. And like I said, it's not like it's impossible to start. I'm not trying to talk badly if you ever, like, if you see a position where you can get a job in the art industry and it's something like texture art. I'm not saying that don't take it if you don't feel, like, I remember AJ said never take those types, like, if you feel like it's an opportunity that you need to take, you know your circumstances better than I do, right? And I'm in a position where I can turn stuff like that down. But if I was in a lot of your guys' shoes, I probably wouldn't either. I am actually very lucky that my first jobs were mostly concept art, so that I can keep practicing concept art. Because what ends up happening is whatever you get a job you're going to be doing that 8 to 10 hours a day, every day, for years potentially, you know?
Yeah.
And you're going to think, well, once I have a job, I'll start practicing concept art. Uh, Trust me, it doesn't work that simple, remember? Tell God your plan if you want him to laugh, you know? Tr- Trust me on that. And like you think you're going to have time, and I just know better. I know too many students, and a lot of my students recently are much wiser to this because I educate them on this. And so when they do get these jobs, they're more attentive to do personal work because they're, oh yeah, I remember AJ telling me about this. He warned me of this, so I'm prepared. I was not prepared for like half of that kind of stuff. So I had to learn the hard way.
Okay.
Okay, so trust me on a lot of this stuff. Yeah,
Will do.
yeah, just do what you want to do. Trust me. Trust that it's possible to do it. It might take you one more year more to do it, but you can wait that extra year. Especially when you do it
Sure.
and you're really happy, right?
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll take one more question and we'll end the class, y'all. Any other questions?
I have a question. Do you have any sources that you would be willing to share if you use them for finding like better texture reference or like color reference, that kind of stuff?
Oh, I think I already did in the beginning class, which is I shared Pinterest. Pinterest, I think, is the best place. The reason why I like Pinterest is because it's not just concept art. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's not like Google where it's just kind of like you can type in a word and it just gives you, everything. There's something about Pinterest that like it doesn't give you everything, it gives you kind of like the most interesting versions of everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like they're already filtered.
Yeah, so there's a somewhat of a filter there, yeah. I think that's probably the best thing. I really do use that. And aside from that, anywhere really, I think using reference in this way is a really good tool, which is basically, I'll explain it in just a second. I'm just trying all kinds of fun stuff, but I decided not to. Uh, a really good one or good tool uh, to having cool ideas or good reference is whenever you're walking around or talking to people or just like observing day by day. The key there is observing right? Like listening to people's, like actually listen to people's conversation. Like listen to what they're actually trying to say to you. Listen to their ideas, you know? Don't be in the habit of trying to um, say what you're going to say kind of thing. Like whenever I'm out and hanging out with people that don't know anything about art, I like to just listen to them. I actually, my wife's friends think that I'm really shy because I don't talk a lot whenever I'm hanging out with them. And you guys know that's clearly not the case. I can talk for hours, right? But this is a different form. This is like I'm a teacher. I need to talk and explain and help you guys and educate. And whenever I'm around other artists and they're like, I give them a lot of insight, right? But these people, they can care less. So I just listen to their conversations. I listen to what they're saying to me because that can be useful to me as a concept artist in the future. You know, I like listening to people's interests, like what they are really into. I like watching people do stuff, like in real life. For instance, I was in the car today, right? And I was taking an Uber, and I was in the back seat, and I was just watching people driving, and I was like, isn't it so interesting how people, when they think they're in the cars, they don't really think that anybody's watching them. So they're doing some silly stuff in the car, they'll pick their nose or they'll like sing, you know. But I'm like watching this person like sing right now, and like this person has no clue that I'm watching them and judging them, right? And I was like, what an interesting idea. That could be a cool movie or story wrapped around that idea. And that's it. I just move on. I don't think anything of it. I don't like go home like I need to write a book about this. But that's just an example of an observation that I had today. Another one was like when my boss was talking to somebody. I was looking out the window and I saw how the mountain just was so epic. It was so large because they're on the seventh floor. And I was asking myself like, it's weird because like as the city is cascading up towards the mountain, like I realized at one point I'm eye level with some of these houses. You know? Oh, that's a pretty cool idea. I didn't think anything more of it. But I'm bringing it up right now as we're talking, just to prove that I think about what I'm looking at, and I try to just hold it in there, just even a little bit, because it might have relevance in the future. Like who knows where it will have relevance, right? And it's not something that you can like, that's something that's trained as well. Like I used to not look at anything or care about anything, right? I'll just walk around the world like whatever, right? But now I'm like really attentive and really observant, and I've gotten better at it. Right? So I think reference online is great, obviously. It's like the most obvious and greatest resource, right? But another resource that I don't think that people utilize is just straight up observation, you know?
Yeah.
And not sharing it with anybody either. Like I didn't have to share any of that. It's just an example since you brought it up. Like if you wouldn't have brought it up, I wouldn't have like ever thought about bringing it up, you know? But it's like
Yeah.
it's great because now I was like, hey, look, I'm giving you an example of a good example of what I was just talking about. Like, look how that was ended up becoming relevant to bring up right now. Yeah, I mean, you remember, go on the caution that you don't know shit. So if you want to be good at art and become better, you have to know more shit, right? And the best way to do that is observe and analyze and educate yourself, right? Because you can't draw shit if you don't know how. Like if you don't know shit, you can't draw shit. It's just true. Yeah, was that helpful?
Yep.
Cool, man.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. All right, guys. I'm gonna stop it here. I'm gonna keep painting this weirdly. Ugh. We'll see what my friend
Arsenal.
We'll see what my friend comes up with. I'm gonna keep painting on this. I'm gonna keep putting more effort in it. But yeah, I appreciate you guys. You guys did great work. This video will be uploaded sometime tomorrow morning. The other one is uploaded too. I forgot to upload it yesterday. I was feeling really bad last few days, and I just been feeling like weird. Like mostly at the end of last Wednesday, and then all of yesterday I was just like garbage. I feel like garbage. Anyway, appreciate y'all. Hang out on Discord. I might be on Discord late tonight doing some paintings, working with the peoples. With that being said, laters.
Thank you for watching this video. I appreciate it. Please subscribe to watch more in the future. If you liked the video, I would appreciate a thumbs up. If you like this content, you can go to my website, robotpencil.net, where you can find mentorships, tutorials, and a Patreon to get more exclusive content. Thanks again, and I'll see you guys in my next videos.